Everybody, Texas Stroker here at Lance's Performance Shop along with Mopars.com. Thursday night after work, it is just about 8:30, and it's one of those days when you wind up eating lunch at 3 to 3:30ish. You don't really feel like you need supper, especially when you're out of like everything that you would make quick anyway. So we're just gonna roll with this. I've got what would make a pretty cool video, but I might split it in two just because I'm strapped for time. Why? Because I've been working 12, 13, 14 hours, days for several weeks now. And this is when, I always hate it, when I come out and I talk about snow and then that video goes live in June and people are like, whoa, snowing where you are? And no, I'm somebody, I have to prepare in advance because then I'll have spells like this where I basically have no free time. And basically the way it works, you get home from work, it's like 7:30 if you're lucky. And then you make your supper, and then, if you want to work out, you kind of like digest the food for like 45 minutes or an hour. You do that, and it's pretty late, and you gotta be up in 6 hours. So that's kind of how things go. And then if you want to do anything fun, take that 6 hours and subtract whatever you throw in there at that time of night. So I have this here though, and this is of course the Koken 72 tooth Zeal. It's the quarter drive, tiny ratchet. And I've been kind of under the gun, and the reason I crank this stuff out is I kind of think I'm going to be under the gun for quite a while. And I've edited that video. That's one of when I tell you you've got about 6 hours to sleep. Well, if you do anything, in that case editing videos, go ahead and deduct from that. And that's what I did, and I kind of feel like I came off maybe a little too salty in that one. And I should have kind of done a better job explaining things there, but from DRPD, this little guy right here is 101.75. That's not bad. The longer iteration is 123. But from Koken Direct, that's where you have the direct dadgum near identical price to a snap-on equivalent, right? So you're up into the 140 echelon for a long flex head. Not saying it's not worth it. I'm just saying that I feel Koken is radically shifted up there. And to be fair, kind of the fixed iterations are still pretty reasonable, especially through DRPD or big sale on Koken, direct from Koken USA. But I promised you I would force myself to use this thing, even though I would prefer to use the longer one. And I've done a few things with it, and I kind of stand by what I said. I would never want to reach for this one first. But again, it's gonna be eventually one of those things where man, I'm glad I had that thing. 101 from DRPD plus the discount, I think you can very easily justify it. But if you're buying this without a discount direct from Koken and it's around the 140 mark, you pick your brand and you can probably get the equivalent in that. Whether you view that as comparable across the board or oh hey, I might go this route, but throw it out there. Japanese, high-end American tool truck, high-end industrial American, German. For 140, you can pick your quarter drive flex head, okay? That's kind of where we stand there. Unless Matco's gotten crazy, I don't know. I've seen some of their ratchet prices, and they could be past that. I don't know. But it's a great ratchet, like I said, and it's going to come in handy. It's just that's where my price comparison was coming from. If you see the 101 here, and you're yeah, that idiot got a discount on top of that. That's how I justified it. But if you just go in direct, if you pre-ordered this thing, jumped on the bandwagon, no discounts or anything, you're right up there. Snap-on Mac, Cornwell, Matco, Stavilla, Hazette, whatever. And not only is it right up there, you can probably find a litany of those for less money. But I love the ratchet. It's tiny. Again, I know it's quarter drive. The good thing is you're probably not going to over torque anything. What jobs has it done? Couple. A junction box. Somebody came by with a bench grinder that I had to kind of help them rewire. I don't know what happened inside. We won't get into it, but it was an easy fix. And then the Harbor Freight bandsaw, the gearbox over here off to the side with the 6 bolts, 2 of which are totally inaccessible by this thing. I think it might fit with a shallow socket, but whatever, I grabbed deep. And I used it there. The good news is the oil leak has stopped, so that's literally all it was. I guess it just, with the gasket, that's the questionable quality. You don't ever want to like over tighten something and collapse it. Guess it was just kind of too loose, so the oil leak has stopped. That's awesome. And that's it. I've done those 2 jobs. I have not had this thing long. I think it was last weekend or the weekend before that came in. I got some time out here, and that was it. So, but like I said, I will continue to make myself use it. It's just, me, my story, the length, the handle, the thickness. Those are my personal preferences. Yes, this will have a time and place. Yes, if you get this from DRPD with one of their discounts, pretty decent pickup, price-wise, of course. If you don't have a sale on this sucker, ooh, like I said, it is what it is. But where Koken was prior to this, like this same Ratchet, you would have your like tool truck stuff up here, your high-end brands from Germany, Japan, wherever, global across the world. And then Koken was just kind of like down here. There's like the mid-tier, there's total junk, mid-tier, high-end, everyone else. And then like Koken was just sort of here. And you got the quality that's here or above, depending on what you're going for in the Ratchet. But the price was in that sweet spot. It was like 3/5, If you think of like dropping down to say like eye contact and Capri, and you're like, yeah, that's about half the price, somewhere in that category. This might be like 3/5 the price to 3/4, but you're like, man, it's every bit as good, if not better, than that stuff at the high end. So they basically just, with the quarter drive, and flex iterations, again, standard ones, I feel like those are kind of checkpoint in line with where they've always been. But with these little flex heads, they're sort of like up here in this corner of the graph. And that's kind of the nuts and bolts, if you will, of that whole video. But I'm not going to redo it simply because I don't have time. But, when I was editing it, I was like, man, this could come off kind of the wrong way. And that's not the intention. My same sentiments I have on everything in terms of the handle size and all that. Yes, I'm aware it's quarter drive. You don't want torque, all that. But it's just buying direct without a discount. You can pick your Ratchet, and I would have no qualms about taking Koken. It's just they've always previously been like, this is really awesome to get this at this price point. So that's kind of where we were going there. I will force myself to continue to use this one, even though I'd rather use the long one. And then once I've kind of gotten my fill with this, we'll move into that guy. I don't really have any complaints on that one, aside from sort of like where it is in the price hierarchy versus where Koken was prior. So that aside, pretty happy to have what we have here. So I'm going to get started with this. This isn't near as big of a deal, and it might stay as you see it. It is Koken's part number RS. What does that mean? Railed set, correct. 330X. What does the X mean? Is that semi-deep? Once again, you are correct. /8, that's the total number of pieces. And let me find it over here on the ticket. This, now again, like I say, like, oh, that's ridiculous. Well, let me just throw that down since I sort of blew it. This is 3/8 drive, 8-piece, semi-deep, metric, as you can tell from the pictures, maybe if you got keen eyes, 6-point. Why? I'm thinking of leaving it just like this. You obviously 8 pieces, and you're thinking like, what is that, 7, 8 to 19? It is, but you're obviously going to have some skips just having 8 pieces. What are we skipping? Well, let's start with what we have, which is 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, and 19. So you're skipping, you don't have 7 on the end, 9 is out. Let's see here. You're going to skip 15, 16, and 18 on your way to the 19 mark. Why would I leave this as it is? Well, we built out sort of shallow and deep, okay, and they're going to be comprehensive, and they're going to be basically 719 again because of reasons that we'll talk about shortly. But, this is kind of something, I think it's going to go on an 8-inch Ernst, whether that's like we wound up going magnetic, or if I cut some down or something in our full custom series. And I'm kind of thinking of pairing this with the SAE equivalents, semi-deep. Why? Grab and go, 8 inches, lightweight, compact, easy to move, place A to B to carry it, take it with you. And it's probably going to do virtually everything I would want it to do. Yes, you're missing some sizes. You know, would I theoretically, in a perfect world, spin a 16 and 18 half-inch drive? Yes, I would. But I mean, for the bread and butter, for the vast majority of things, I think this is going to be pretty solid. And again, that's kind of the end goal there. It all makes sense once you sort of see the final reveal of what I have in my head, which I can't show you because it's not come to fruition in the real world just yet. But price point on this thing, if I got to that, which I can't recall if we mentioned it or not, $69.75. Think about that for a second. You got 8 pieces here, 3/8 semi-deep. A lot of times you pay a premium for semi-deep. So basically, if we take 8 and we do multiples of 8, 8 by 8 is 64, 8 by 9 is 72, so let's just call that 850 a socket, kind of. Pretty solid pickup in my opinion, and again, ridiculous on the quality to price scale. You know, where this Ratchet's in this upper corner of the graph, this is like back down here in sort of like the mid-tier, right? And it's phenomenal quality, so this, thrilled with. And again, maybe we build that out, but I think for now it's just kind of going to be just an 8-piece semi-deep set. And I don't know, maybe should it pair with the 12-point equivalent semi-deep metric, or should you just have sort of like a, well, I don't know what that is, you know, there's crud all over it, I can't tell if it's what marks or grades, you know, does it have 8.8 on it, who knows, can't see it, kind of covered, right? So that'll come to materialization here shortly, but I feel like that is a phenomenal price. Again, that's, again, if you wonder why does he complain about that being the 101, it's because everything else is just like, wow, you know, this is a steal. And that one I kind of like, yeah, you know, it's worth it, but it's not quite the steal category anymore. Speaking of steals though, good lord, Koken part number RS3400M/12. Some of you, again, you got railed set down, 3400. Is that 3/8 shallow? Well, it is. It's 6-point. M for metric, 12, as you might have guessed, total number of pieces. And what would you pay, pick your brand of choice, for a 3/8 drive, shallow socket set, 8 to 19, with no skips? That would be a pretty penny a lot of places, right? Here's the thing, this little gem right here, $57.45. Okay, I'm going to drop this down so you know I'm not just screwing around with you. 8 to 19, 0 skips. We've got 8, we've got 9 and 10, 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15 is there. We've got 16, we've got 18, and we've also got the 17 and the 19. Literally 8 to 19, no skips, 12 pieces, $57, all right? Yeah, do quick math, 12 into 5, or 12 times 5 is 60. Less than $5 a socket? Okay, pick your mid-tier brand of choice, and if they sell these standalone, if you can get like a standalone, you know, set here, you don't have to buy shallow and deep or something, they're kind of right in that territory, right? And sometimes you might not be able to buy standalone sockets like you can with Koken, and this is ridiculous to essentially have a complete 8 to 19. This isn't 10 to 19. It's not like 8 to 13 or something crazy. 8 to 19, that's pretty much the gauntlet of what a normal person's going to do with 3/8 drive outside of extenuating circumstances, right? $57. Pair this with that, and let's just go 68 and 58, so we're at 126. For a semi-deep, which you typically have a tool tax on, killer deal. And again, that's always where Koken has been to me. Like, I've always felt like, hey, you know, like I come in and, you know, we love Stavilla, we love Hazet, Gedor, you know, all our German stuff we're happy with. The American stuff we bring in, old or new, you know, is good. But you don't get this type of price point with those brands. And again, that's kind of where the complaining on the quarter drive flex head sort of came from. So I feel like it's sort of left, you know, like this 60th percentile, and it's just, you know, angled right up. So these are still in the sweet spot where I'm thrilled with them and have 0 complaints. Now, I spoke specifically of doing something which was very important to this video, and it was our ability to score standalone sockets. Now, why? Why would we want to do that? Well, if I can find it on the ticket here, it's probably dirt cheap, and it is. Let's see here. We'll give you the part number, 3400M. If that sounds familiar, it's because it ties in right here, and you're thinking like, what would that be? Well, the rest of the part number is -7. The price point was $405. And if you say to yourself, hey, is that a 3H drive 6.7 millimeter socket? It totally is. Now, why would we do that? We had a perfectly good rail. Well, as you should know, even though these are the good spring steel, there are like two tiers. There's the good ones, and then there's ones that are junk. Koken does use the good ones, which is nice. Proto as well. But no, we don't do that. We don't want the spring steel with what we're trying to build here. So, enter this little gem, the MTS friction peg socket holder. What's special about this one? If you don't recall or you're new to the channel, it's orange. It's got white numbers. Why is it like that? It's a prototype. How did we come about it? I was interested in these. I wanted them for the US General, where these sockets ultimately go. And I was like, hey, do you guys, they made orange, right, in the magnetic lock-a-socket deals. And I was like, y'all not do orange in the friction peg? And they said they'd considered it. Certain brands may, package their own, or relabeled, if you will. But this was a prototype, and they said, yeah, show it, take it, enjoy it, show it to people, see if people want it, like it, maybe we'll make it. So the SAE is a little different. It's got the black with the white like we typically see from the MTS friction peg line. But this little sucker right here is 7 to 19, and if you note, there's a glaring weakness here. We're missing a 7 deep and a 7 shallow. In this case, these are actually 12-point semi-deeps, and then back here we've got the deeps. So this guy is going to go right here, and guess where this rail underneath that friction peg holder is going to go? That's correct, across there, and we're going to have this complete, finally. So again, huge thing that I love about a quality brand is the ability to get standalone sockets. Let's say that you do something stupid, you're running this on an impact because your impact sockets were too fat, and you needed the 18 millimeter, and you fracture the sidewall, and you're like, I wonder if they'll warranty it. And, they might, or they might be like, hey, looks like you probably had that on an impact. No dice, sir. A lot of places, you got to buy a full set, or you've got to then mix-match brands. You got to find an 18 that you can plug in. With Koken, just like with other high-quality brands, if I want to come in here and I wanted to buy 12 14 millimeter sockets, I can do that. If you just need a 7, you can do that. If you get this 8-piece set of semi-deeps and you wind up loving it and you're like, good Lord, I want to drop this thing down to 6, and I definitely need to add, the 18, and I want to take it up to, I don't know, 21, 22, whatever they might have it top out at, you're free to do so. So that's kind of where you don't mind picking up, an 8-piece set versus a 12-piece set when user controls the end outcome, right? This, I wanted a 7, we added a 7. This, I might call it good there. If it's like, what, we got to pull the trigger, we got to get the 18. Boom, go to town and do it. You're a Ford person, maybe you need the 9, you add it in. And ultimately, you kind of just build out what you need in the event that you don't have or decide not to go full tilt all the way out. So, obviously these 12s are going to be jumping off, but this thing is going to be fully populated, minus one glaring weakness, which, who knows, maybe we have that covered as well. I'll tell you right now, that would be here from DRPD. They currently do not sell deep socket standalone. Almost every time I seem to say something like that, like, I think you don't have 12-point sockets, they wind up getting them in. So, maybe they'll make that happen. But, luckily, there were Memorial Day sales at Koken USA, so maybe, trying to spoil anything too crazy, but maybe we finally got a 7 deep. But yeah, I hate ending the video here, but with the sort of update on that guy, we're kind of do a decent time length, I guess, by our standards anyway. And I think we might just stop there. So what I want to do before we kill this off, let's just come in here and we're going to grab the 13. That's relatable to most of you. I'm not sure, I don't personally use the 14 more, but sometimes it's not just because it's 9/16 interchange, it's like, I really have that there. But we'll take this guy, which I actually do. This is probably my most used Koken ratchet. Keep in mind, we didn't have any quarter drive until that came in, and we still don't have a 1/2-inch drive Koken. But if you look at the anvil on this guy, you can kind of see we support that. These do actually get used, imagine that. If you watch the RAM Revival, or if I ever get free time in life to have more than like 30-40 minutes, you'll see them in use. But as my long buddy here, let's see, what is it, 280, which is a very nice length in my opinion. And dadgum. This is why that's okay. Like, even though that is in the upper echelon, this is why it's worth it. It's the ratchet mechanism. It's just that good. So, do I think it's necessarily maybe the strongest? I don't know. You know, I'm hoping I don't get to that point in life where we ever tax this to the point of breakage. But it's so freaking good. I have such good luck with this stuff. The 3/8 is sort of where we jumped in. That's why you've seen us expand beyond everything else, right? That's why we brought the quarter in. That's why we hope to see a 1/2-inch flex head. It's literally that good. Slim head. I don't have an issue with this sort of being the opposite of other brands. You figure it out. But dadgum, just that right there. And then just the instantaneous ability to be moving your fastener. There's none of this like, you know, and you gotta go travel X, you know, 1/4 of a mile down the road to get your ratchet swing back in action. It's just boom, and you're going again. If our obstruction's here, it's literally like one tooth. It's amazing. And I say that you can always go one tooth with another ratchet, but as you start to go down, you might have this much travel before it engages again. With a Koken, it's just instantaneous, and again, that is why I love it. That's why we brought in so much. That coupled, the quality coupled with the ridiculously absurd, for the vast majority of everything, low price point. So they do have some outliers, you know, and this is new. That might be part of it. I'm sure they spend a ton of time, you know, developing that. And like I said, for a lot of people, quarter drive might be the mojo. It might be your go-to. For me, at home, 3/8 at work is really 1/2-inch, if I'm being honest with you. And it's usually like powered, but hey, it's what it is. But the quarter has its place, even for people like me, you know. There's going to come a time where your 3/8 drive socket might be a little too fat, even if you step down into the chromes. And that's where quarter comes in. And then tight spaces, tight confines, that's where the little guy shines. So I think it really kills me not showing you this other stuff because it's pretty cool. You know, and I've got stuff from Koken too that doesn't, well, I don't want to ruin that. Let me think about this for a second longer. We'll save that item. We'll save that item. Let's do it. Okay, so this one is not going to set the world on fire by any stretch of the imagination. It's Koken part number 2137. It costs $6 and don't fall, it fell. $6.90. And what is it? It's not this thing. Okay, what is this? This is a quarter drive 9/16. Again, we picked these up so long ago, the set stopped at half. 9/16 was an epic addition in my opinion. Why? I use 3/8 stuff all the time. But this is the nut grip. You can kind of see the spring, and you've got your ball retention pins there. And this guy right here, if you can see it, it's quarter drive, right? Yep, it sure is. If I spin it around, you're thinking, oh, wow, hey, you got a... That's 9/16. You sized down and got yourself like something smaller than the set came with, huh? But it seems a little taller. What's the deal? Well, what is the deal? Let's zoom in. There's our part number, 2137, made in Japan. Super nice satin finish. This one's all satin, unlike the sockets where you sort of have that transitional zone. You can see quarter on there and you think like, oh wow, it's like a, what is that, like a semi-deep nut grip? Cool. No, it is not. Although, if you look at the profile there, you can see the ball. You can see there's only one instead of on two sides. Why is that? Well, is this designed to like hold a specific fastener that I'm going to be shooting? Am I going to like throw this on an impact and drive stuff into a fence or a deck? What's the deal? Well, let me drop in Koken part number 2769 NWF, which it's not in this tool haul. We did this long ago. And as a spoiler, that's the handle. And this is the end, and you're like, ooh, wobble, a wobble fix. And if I take this and actually put it on the drive end, boom. Let me back this out, and you're thinking like, okay, so you bought this for like what, some speed nut? Is this like a speed nut grip, you know, little dash cap holders for your cars? No, we'd need a slightly larger size for that, but think to KC Tool. What do we always get? We get a bit of thanks. I've got one right here, in fact. I've got several right there, in fact. But if I take this and I jam it in, we have created ourselves a Koken Wobble fix driver that's able to do bits. Now, would you want to use this in wobble mode? Possibly. It kind of depends. You got to think this is, yes, a number 2 Phillips, but take whatever bits you've got and insert it here. Maybe it's a little ball end. Maybe you've invested in like ball end hex. You do some like finite stuff in a weird corner, sort of like the 2 screws on that gearbox on the bandsaw. They're sort of off over here and the motor occludes them type of a thing. If those were like Allen head screws, we would simply come in and you could possibly use this just to apply, because they're not tight. I mean, they're like gasketed, of course. So you could come in, and if you had a ball and hex, if it's a weird deal and maybe you've got like a 89mm power bit and you need something extended to drop down somewhere, go to town. The big thing here is, in the event, and people wouldn't really think of this unless you deal with it, which, spoiler alert, I might deal with it, but if we come in and I grab this, ooh, going back to the early KC tool days with the Wiha 3K, still think this handle needs to come back personally. German Tool Review said the same thing. But, he was kind of sad to see it go. I think he has both of the hex end handles in that. I sort of regret not doing that personally, but where does this one date code? To 2017. Good times. This one's cool. It's fixed, and it's got an end on it, obviously. Can't pull it off. It's not a nut grip. But what does it do? It holds bits, and how does it hold them? With a magnet. Simple, right? Well, if I take this and we throw down this screw, you can see that picks it up. Now, this is good a lot of the time. It's going to retain the screw. It's going to grab a screw. If it, it's like a blind hole and you're constantly dropping it out, it might kind of hold on to it. You can just extract the driver, reposition the screw, try to stab it in again. But there's times this is really bad, times where you like have shaving. It's not the end of the world, but it's going to create a mess. Guess what this doesn't do, since it's a nut grip design? It doesn't have a magnet. Case in point, we'll just set this guy down. I'll grab another screw from the same pile. Oh, let me get one that's not tainted by magnetism. Scoot it farther down the Omega M. I'm going to take the Koken. No nefarious tricks up my end. Okay, that is actually picking it up. But not quite like the other one, right? Why is that picking it up? This must have had a magnet. It might just be the bit. Yes, it's clearly the bit that is the issue. Well, again, once something is magnetized, it's sometimes, Right here, though, we'll just dumbify this thing, if that's a word now. And we try to stab it with our nut grip holder, and it's just not happening. It's technically not a nut grip holder, but we just refer to it that way lovingly. And, you see where I'm going, right? So if you've had to drill down, maybe we'll just say a panel, or maybe you're diving deep into like some, we'll just say like a mill, and the junction box has issues, some idiot kicked the cover and tore 2 wires, and you're going down there, there's metal shavings underneath it that have piled up over 20 years, and you come in here with this, yeah, that's going to go right into a pile of oily shavings, and guess what winds up on the tip of your driver and the screw? It's shavings. Guess what doesn't wind up on this tip here? You get the oil, you'll probably get some bits from the oil, but assuming there was not oily bits and it was fresh shavings, you get nothing. You get a screw that's disappeared because it actually went into the hole and was tightened. So, $6.90, I believe that was well spent for the reasons I mentioned. And like I said, in weird situations, this could actually come in handy with the wobble fix, but the vast majority of the time you'd be running it in standard mode. Obviously, since we have this little guy here and I told you I would use it, let's say that you need a bit driver and you don't have to have something crazy stubby. Boom. This is much more confidence inspiring than the wobble fix. But go to town this way. Obviously, the weakness of this guy is going to be that it holds the bits out pretty good. Now, you could probably run like a half-cut bit or something. Again, you could run something longer if that was the situation you needed. But that would be like the only real shortcoming. It doesn't hold it super tight either, but it's holding it without a magnet, and sometimes that's important. So, I gave you a little something. We saved a couple of items that are pretty cool for the next one. Kind of whet your appetite for destruction there. And, yeah, so semi-deeps, 8 to 19, plus the 7 right here. Again, we've had this for quite some time. Love it. Sits in the cart. Little guy right there, 690 Koken 21 8:37. Before I go and wrap this up, let me do one thing for the OCD people that have had to suffer through this. You're welcome. This fully populated 6-point and 6-point, I know that was probably driving some of you nuts. That's a good sign I've recruited good people to my channel. I like the attention to detail. And, anyway, 7-19 3/8 drive 6-point, finally complete on the shallow fronts. I will say, obviously this is the first time it's been complete and these sockets have been on here. The 8, 9, and 10 were kind of tight. 7 and 8 like borderline touching, just super finite clearance in there. We'd have to bust out feeler gauge. Obviously it's not quite like the rest of the way where there's more space. Why does MTS do that? Well, there's varying tolerances for manufacturers, of course, so tighter down here, wider up there. I think it might be able to be spaced a little bit better, but hey, I'm not going to complain. Because again, this was sent out as a prototype. If you love this thing, if you want orange from MTS, whether it's orange with the white or the typical black with the white lettering on that, you gotta tell them, and then they'll make it. And then maybe, if you're a yellow or a purple person, we can convince them to do that. The more colors, the better, in my opinion, whether it's color coding or just, by gosh, you love yellow and want a yellow socket peg holder that's friction peg style. But again, hit them up, email, website, call them, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Speaking of that, though, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all three at Lone Star Mopars. You can let me know what you thought of this video. Again, sorry if I kind of seemed salty in that one. It's just, I love the Ratchet, and it's justified really well with the lower price at DRPD plus the big sale. It's just, like I said, they sort of were always here in this, like, 40 to 60 percentile, you know, price-wise, and now it's like, shoom, it's in that 95 to 100th percentile price-wise on the quarter flex stuff. Totally worth it, yes, but kind of like not what I was accustomed to, you know. But anyway, if you don't have to have the flex, the good news is 72 tooth mechanism is available and fixed, and those are stupid reasonable. So cash in there. Maybe wait for a sale on the flex. And again, if you don't work in tight quarters, I'd totally go with the long one. If you're the person that always is in weird circumstances and has crazy dash stuff you have to do, might start there. But for the average person, I totally get the long one first. It's just more comfortable to use, in my opinion. More useful, really. This one will save you, but that one will be your daily driver type of a thing, right? So 7mm standalone, thank you DRPD on that front. 8-19. This whole setup right here, this bottom row, it's like $4 plus, what was it, 57? This is like a $60 7-19 3/8 drive shallow 6-point. Insane. Again, I haven't had Koken for a long time. I'm talking just a couple of years, but it has been used quite a bit in that time frame. Typically, if I'm going to have issues, I find them by now, so I feel very good about that. Again, stupid good deal there. Same thing, try to find, number one, not every brand makes a semi-deep. Number two, most brands that do, you pay a tool tax there. It's like, well, you know, this is a specialty, we don't sell near as many, yada yada, price hike. So that was a fantastic steal, just shy of $70 if I'm thinking correctly. And again, this guy, we kind of covered why I think it'll be useful. Let me know your thoughts on that. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video, maybe learned a little something, find some stuff you need to add, like that guy perhaps. And don't forget, I hopefully whet your appetite for the next one. And I'll tell you right now, that was not the end of the DRPD order. So there's another thing. Will I upload that next and have it kind of as a breakup point, or will we continue with Koken? You'll have to stay tuned to find out, because quite frankly, I don't even know yet. Just depends what I feel like when I edit it, I guess. But anyway, it's getting late. I would love nothing more than to shower and like be in bed at a decent time after I work out tonight. So I'm gonna try to. Last night I was so tired, I just kind of zoned out in my chair for 40 minutes before I got up and worked out. So made supper, you know, ate around like 9 something, and then went up and I was like, I don't want to work out right now. I just ate, and then it's just kind of like you sort of fall asleep because you're so tired, and then you're like, oh geez, better work out. And then you do, and then it's midnight and you're like, oh, I gotta be at work in a few hours, and yeah, rinse and repeat. But I can't complain, because hey, I'd rather be busy than not have work to do at all, and that keeps the paycheck coming in, which lets me do cool stuff like this. So, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. Again, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on any of this stuff. If you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. Why? Because the more subscribers I get, the more crazy cool stuff I'll bring in. I'm a simple guy. Cars and tools. I haven't changed, and I don't envision that happening either. So hey, you're helping me help you have something to watch when you go to bed, or whatever. Eat your 20-minute lunch break that gets interrupted twice. I know how it goes. But with that said, LoneStarMopars.com is the website. Once again, you can find us on social media, all three at LoneStarMopars.com. If you ring the bell while jumping your Charger across a creek and spinning your long 3/8 Koken Ratchet through the gong, YouTube just might notify you've got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, thanks again for watching. I hope you have yourself a fantastic week. And most importantly, I hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop.